She sets my glass down on the table between us. Once, deliberate, the small sound of it, precise in the room's quiet. And her hand slides under the edge of my blazer to my side, below the hip, where the pregnancy is most present. The warmth of her palm arrives through the dark silk of my dress, and my hands find the high table and stay there. And my body receives that warmth as a piece of information it was already in possession of and has been filing in the wrong category for 4 months. She looks at my face, not at the dress, not at the visible curve of 20 weeks under dark silk, at my face, with the specific quality of a woman who has stopped managing what her expression does. She says, very quietly, "I've been counting months," not an accusation, a fact she has been in possession of, and is now, in this private room with the Gala muffled behind the closed door and the amber lamp between us, choosing to offer. If you want to hear uncensored too hot for YouTube stories, check out my Patreon in the description. Tell us where you're watching from and subscribe. 4 months ago, I was a senior partner at Callaway & Marsh with a clean calendar and a major client acquisition in progress. And my life had the specific orderly quality of a life that has been constructed with intention and maintained with discipline. I was 36. I had spent 12 years building a professional reputation that meant something in this city, and I had not, in any of those 12 years, made a decision I could not defend in the morning. Then I made one I could not defend. Or rather, I made one I could defend completely. I had simply not anticipated the full scope of what defending it would require. The relationship ended at week 3, not dramatically, not with damage I could point to later and use as explanation. It ended with a conversation that was honest and mutual and final, and I walked out of that apartment on a clear Tuesday evening and took the long way home through the park and stood at the kitchen window for a while after. And the decision I was already in the process of making settled around me the way decisions do when you have been careful your whole life and have learned to recognize the difference between the ones that need more time and the ones that simply need to be made. I kept the pregnancy. Not because I had a plan for the logistics of it, initially. Not because I had done the math on parental leave and support structures and the specific texture of solo parenthood at 36, though I did all of that math in the weeks that followed and the numbers came back manageable. I kept it because when I stood at the kitchen window that Tuesday evening and asked myself the real question and the one underneath all the practical ones, the answer came back immediate and unambiguous, and I have never been able to pretend I didn't hear it. The practical math came second. It was convincing. That helped. I told my firm at 8 weeks, formally correctly with documentation prepared and a continuity plan already drafted, because I am who I am, and I was not going to have that conversation without having done the work first. They received it professionally. There was a moment in the managing partner's office where I watched him recalibrate his read of a situation he thought he understood, and I gave him the space to do that without providing additional commentary, and we moved on. I told exactly 4 other people, my assistant, my doctor, my mother, by phone, which produced a 40-minute conversation I will not recount here. And a colleague at the firm, who has been my closest professional ally for 6 years, and who, when I told her, said, "Are you all right?" in a tone that meant she was asking the real question, not the social one. And I said yes and meant it, and she nodded and said, "Then good." And we did not discuss it further until she appeared at my office door 3 weeks later with a list of pediatricians she had researched personally and left on my desk, without comment. The Gala was on my calendar in November, when it was still 3 months away and I was still in the first trimester and making no public decisions about visibility. By the time January arrived and the Gala was a week out, I was 20 weeks along and the dark silk dress I had bought in October, before any of this, no longer concealed anything. I could have chosen something else to wear. The thought lasted approximately 40 seconds on the morning of the Gala before I recognized it for what it was: an adjustment, a modification, a decision to arrive as a slightly edited version of myself. And I put the thought down and got the dark silk dress out of the closet. I was arriving as myself, the complete version, unmodified. That decision, once made, has not been revisited. The Gala was at the Meridian, in the large event rooms on the 4th floor, and I arrived at 9:15 in the dark silk dress and my blazer and my best shoes, 20 weeks visibly present and making no effort otherwise. And I collected a glass of sparkling water and spent the first 20 minutes doing exactly what I had come to do, which was professional maintenance, the specific work of being present and capable and unremarkable in a room full of people whose impression of me is a professional asset. I was speaking to a colleague from the regulatory side of the industry at 9:31 when I became aware of a change in the room. Not a sound change, not a visible event. The specific quality of a room's attention reorganizing without announcement. I did not look immediately. I finished my sentence. I completed the thought I was in the middle of, because I am a person who completes thoughts, and then I turned, casually, with the specific calculated casualness of someone who has been in enough professional situations to know that the direction you look tells people something. Sonara Voss was standing at the entrance to the main room. I had met Sonara Voss 4 months ago at a preliminary client meeting for the Harrington Group account, a major advisory contract that both our firms had been approached for and that had, in the 4 months since, become the organizing structure of my professional life. She was the senior managing partner at Voss and Clifton. She was, by every professional metric I could name, my direct opposite number. The person on the other side of the table, the authority whose recommendations my recommendations were measured against, the woman whose professional opinion ended discussions at her firm the way mine ended discussions at mine. In 4 months of professional contact, meetings, briefings, 2 industry events, 1 contentious joint session with the client, I had developed a precise and well-organized file of professional observations about Sonara Voss, and I had not once allowed that file to expand into territory it did not belong in. She was standing at the entrance to the main room in a dark tailored suit and dark turtleneck, her jet black hair down tonight, loose and precise, and the room was, without being asked, reorganizing around her presence. I had 4 months of professional meetings with this woman, and I had never seen her hair down. It was a small thing. It was an entirely unremarkable observation about a colleague at a professional event. I filed it correctly and looked back at the colleague I had been speaking to and finished the conversation. And when I looked across the room again, Sonara Voss was already looking at me. She was not moving. This was the thing I noticed first. She had seen me and she had stopped. Not paused in the way a person pauses when they recognize someone across a room and are calculating whether to cross to them. Stopped. As in, whatever trajectory she had been on had been interrupted. Her glass was in her hand, and she was not drinking from it, and her eyes were on me. Not on my dress. I registered this immediately. On me. And she did not move for 4 seconds. In 4 months of professional dealings with Sonara Voss, I had never once seen her interrupted. 4 seconds in the specific economy of their professional relationship was the equivalent of a long and formally worded statement. I held her gaze. I did not look away, because I am who I am, and looking away would have been a concession I had not decided to make. And after a moment, she began moving toward me through the room with the specific controlled quality of a person who has decided to do something and is now doing it. The client decision was due in 10 days. I had not thought about it since approximately 9:30. She arrived at the edge of my conversational space, and my colleague excused himself with the specific social precision of someone who has read a room correctly. And then Sonara Voss was standing in front of me for the first time since the contentious joint session 3 weeks ago. And the distance between us was the professional standard, the correct and maintained and entirely unremarkable 18 inches of professional interaction. And something in the back of my neck went alert in a way I noted and set aside. Nor. She said my name the way she always said it in professional settings, precisely without inflection, the way she said the name of any professional colleague. A greeting that was also a recognition that I was standing in front of her, and she had decided to acknowledge that. Sonara, equally precise, equally inflectionless. We were, both of us, excellent at this. Her eyes moved over my face. Not to the dress, not to the 20 weeks of pregnancy visible in the dark silk below my blazer. My face. The Harrington meeting is Tuesday, she said. I'm aware. You've revised your pricing model. It was not a question. She said it the way she said everything. As a fact, she was in possession of and was offering for confirmation. My assistant mentioned that you mentioned that. I held my glass and looked at her with the same professional composure I had been maintaining for 4 months. You've revised yours. Something at the corner of her mouth, too small to name. Perceptive assistant, she said. She's exceptional, I said. I'll pass that along. The conversation had the specific texture of all our professional conversations. Careful, precise, the specific pleasure of 2 very capable women deploying their capacity against each other in a context designed for exactly that. We had been doing this for 4 months, and I had, in those 4 months, learned the specific quality of Sonara Voss's attention. The way it landed, the way it held, the exact quality of stillness that meant she was thinking hard about something. And I had filed all of that correctly in the professional column and not moved it. She was looking at me now with that quality of attention, and I was looking back with my own, and neither of us was discussing the client or the pricing model or the meeting on Tuesday, and the back of my neck had not stopped being alert, and I was not examining why. "You came tonight," she said, not a question. "I was on the calendar." "Yes." A pause, something in her face that was not quite expressible in the professional register we were using. "You were." I looked at her. She was looking at me. "The revised model is stronger," she said, abruptly, the way she returned to professional ground when she had been somewhere else. "You'll have an answer from me on Tuesday." "I look forward to it," I said, and meant it, because I always meant it with her. And she nodded once, precisely, and moved away into the room. I stood for a moment with my glass and the specific quality of the space she had occupied, which was different from the space around it in ways I was not going to quantify. And then I turned back to the room and continued doing what I had come to do. At 9:47, she appeared at my left shoulder. I was mid-conversation with two colleagues from the regulatory advisory side of the industry, a conversation that required my full professional attention, which I was providing, and I became aware of her presence before I saw her, which I attributed correctly to peripheral vision and the specific way that Sanara Voss's arrival in a room reorganized the attention of everyone in it. "Excuse me," she said to my colleagues with the precise authority of someone who does not expect to be argued with, and my colleagues, who were not unreasonable people, found reasons to be elsewhere almost immediately. I turned to face her. She was looking at the glass in my hand. "What are you drinking?" she said. "Sparkling water." "All evening?" "I have a reason for that," I said. She looked at me, and the look was the specific kind that meant she had just confirmed something she had already known, and then she did something I had not fully anticipated. She reached out and took the glass from my hand. Not roughly, not quickly, the precise, deliberate movement of a person making a choice and carrying it out. Her fingers closed around the glass where my fingers had been, warm and specific, and she lifted it from my hand and turned to the high table behind us and set it down. The warmth of her fingers had been at the exact place where my fingers had been holding the glass. The inside of my hand, where it had been covered, retained the awareness of that transfer for longer than was strictly necessary. And I noted this and did not comment on it internally. She turned back. "The Gala is not the place for sparkling water at 9:47, she said. "I'll bear that in mind for the ones where I'm not 20 weeks pregnant," I said, because I am who I am and I was not going to soften the sentence or add anything to it. She was looking at me. She had been looking at me since she took the glass, but now the quality of the attention changed. Not larger, not more visible, but with a specific density I had not felt from her before. In 4 months of professional dealings where she had been, at every moment, precisely calibrated. She blinked. Once. The way a person blinks when something has revised their read of a situation. I had not stepped back. I recognized, in the moment after I registered her single blink, that stepping back had been part of her read of the situation. That she had reached for the glass and set it down and turned back, and the geometry she had anticipated included my having put more professional space between us while she was doing that. I had not. I was still standing at the same distance I had been standing, which was now, with the glass gone and nothing between us, and the specific warmth of that hand transfer still present in my palm, slightly closer than the professional standard. I did not expand the distance. She held her position. She was not, I noted, expanding the distance either. "You've been here since 9:15, she said. Not a question. "Correct. You've spoken to—" She named 3 colleagues by name, and they were all 3 of them the specific people I had prioritized for professional maintenance reasons. And the fact that she had registered this correctly was not something I was going to acknowledge as notable, except that I was noting it. In that order. "You've been watching my calendar," I said. "I've been watching the room," she said, with the minimal precision of a correction that is not quite a correction. The ambient sound of the Gala moved around us. Someone across the room laughed at something. A string ensemble was playing something in the corner that I had been successfully not listening to for 40 minutes. The back of my neck had not stopped its specific quiet alertness since she had first looked at me from across the room. "The set tonight," she said, and then she did not finish the sentence. I waited. This was a skill I had developed in direct proportion to my experience dealing with Sanara Voss, who used the unfinished sentence as a professional instrument. "You came as yourself," she said. It was not a question. It was an observation delivered with the specific weight of something that had been considered before being said. I looked at her. I was on the calendar, I said, which was not an answer to what she had actually said. Yes, she said, in the corner of her mouth again. You were. The silence between us had the specific texture of a silence that is not empty. I was looking at her face, and she was looking at mine, and we were both of us standing at a distance that was no longer precisely professional, and we were both of us. I recognized in the specific quiet of the moment, aware of that. The meeting on Tuesday, I said. The professional ground. The correct ground. 10 days, she said, which was not the answer I expected. Yes. The decision is in 10 days. I know. She was looking at me with the specific quality of a woman who has been precise for 4 months and is standing at the edge of something she has been precise about. I know, I said again, and I did not know why I said it again. And she was still looking at me, and the gala moved around us like it did not know it should stop. Later, I would recognize that 9:47 was the moment the evening changed. Not gradually, not in stages I could have mapped in real time, but in the specific way that evenings change when something that has been building for 4 months finds the precise moment of its own weight. But I did not recognize it in the moment. In the moment, I was standing at a high table with a woman I had been professionally opposing for 4 months, and she had taken my glass and set it down, and the warmth of her fingers was still in my palm, and neither of us was looking away. She reached out, not quickly, the deliberate movement I had come to recognize as her specific quality. Nothing she did was accidental. Nothing arrived without having been decided first. And her hand moved to my blazer's edge, at my side, and her fingers went under the edge of the fabric. Not inside the blazer, not yet. At the edge, just under, the wool of the blazer against the back of her hand, the dark silk of my dress against her palm, and the warmth arrived at my waist with the specific quality of warmth that has a source and a location and is not ambient. My hands found the edge of the high table, not dramatically, the specific practical movement of a person who has located something stable. Her hand was still, not moving. Warm through the dark silk, and the warmth was specific and located and had the quality of something deliberate, and I was looking at her face, and she was looking at mine. You came tonight as yourself, she said, low, with the specific register she used in professional settings when she was making a point she did not need to raise her voice for. Don't explain it. I had not been planning to explain it. Let me, she said. And the meaning of it was clear and specific, and I received it as a piece of information my body had been in possession of since 9:15 and had been filing in the wrong category. And I did not speak, and her hand at my side was warm through the silk and real in a way that the last 4 months of professional precision had not prepared me for. The gala moved from the other room. The string ensemble played. Someone laughed at something. And in the specific small space between her hand and my side, and the amber warmth of the gala's lights, something that had been building for 4 months stood very still. And I looked at her face, and I did not look away. She did not look away either. The blazer was displaced where her arm had moved under it, a small thing, practical, visible only to both of us, and she did not remove her hand. And I did not step back, and the distance between us had contracted to something that was no longer any professional standard I had maintained for 4 months. The revised model, she said, and the quality of her voice had changed. The same precision, but lower, with a quality I had not heard from her before. I'm not discussing the model, I said. A pause, short, the kind that has weight. No, she agreed. Her hand at my side was still warm, still. The warmth was traveling slowly, with the specific patience of warmth that has been given time and space, through the dark silk and into the part of me that had been carefully, deliberately composed for 4 months. And my hands were still at the table's edge, and I was holding the table with the specific precision of a person holding something stable. I saw you from the entrance, she said. At 9:15. I know. You looked at me and you didn't look away. Neither did you. She looked at me for a long moment. The hand at my side did not move. No, she said. I didn't. I breathed in. The scent of her. Cedar and something cool, clean linen with an edge of something colder underneath. Present at this distance in a way it had not been in 3 weeks of conference rooms. Arrived in my chest with the specific quality of something being recognized. I breathed out. The private room, she said. Down the hall. Not a question. I looked at her for a moment. She looked back. The hand at my side was warm and still and present. Yes, I said. She took her hand away. The absence of it was immediate and specific and located at the exact place on my side where her palm had been, and the absence had the quality of something that would not be staying absent. And I picked my blazer up from where it had been displaced and straightened it, and she was already moving toward the hall with the specific quality of someone who does not need to look back to know they are being followed. I followed. The private room was at the end of the hall, off the main floor, with a closed door and the amber warmth of a single lamp already lit. 2 chairs, a small table, the Gala muffled and present through the wall, the specific ambient of a professional event, continuous and irrelevant. She went in first and I followed, and the door closed behind me and the muffled Gala sound went 1 degree quieter, and we were in the amber lamp's warm and specific light, and the room was small and the 2 chairs faced each other across the small table, and the lamp made everything close. She indicated the chair. I sat. She did not sit. She stood for a moment looking at me. Not at the dark silk dress, not at the visible 20 weeks. At my face, with the specific quality of attention I had spent 4 months cataloging and filing correctly. Then she moved to the small table and took the 2 glasses from it and set them on a shelf against the wall, and turned back, and the room was now the 2 chairs and the lamp and the muffled Gala and us. She sat across from me. The lamp was between us, on the table, and its amber light made the room warm and specific and close, and she was sitting in the other chair with the specific quality of stillness she used in every professional meeting I had ever attended with her, and the silence between us had the particular texture of a silence that is doing something. I looked at her face. She was looking at mine. 4 months, she said. Yes. The Harrington account. Yes. You knew when we started, she said. Not a question, not an accusation. The specific delivery she used for facts she had been in possession of and was surfacing. I was 7 weeks when the preliminary meeting was scheduled, I said. I knew. She was quiet for a moment. The Gala moved behind the wall, muffled and continuous. You came to the preliminary meeting at 7 weeks, she said. I came to every meeting, I said. I came to the contentious joint session 3 weeks ago. Yes, she said. You did. Something in her face that was very small and very specific. Not softness. Sonara Voss's face did not do softness as a first language. A quality of attention that had changed its register. You've been proceeding alone, she said. It was the accurate sentence, the one that named it correctly without editorializing. Since month 3, I said. She was looking at me with the specific quality of someone who's receiving information and not performing a reaction to it. Something I had come to, over 4 months of professional dealings, find genuinely unusual. Most people receiving that sentence produced a reaction. Sonara Voss received it the way she received professional data, carefully, with full attention, without decorating it. The Gala was on your calendar, she said, in November. And you came tonight. As I said, I was on the calendar. She looked at me for a moment. The lamp was warm between us. The Gala moved behind the wall. You came tonight as yourself, she said. The complete version. I had said that sentence internally on the morning I got the dark silk dress out of the closet. I had not said it to anyone. I looked at her. Yes, I said. She was quiet for a moment. Her hands were in her lap, still, the specific stillness she maintained in professional meetings. The stillness of someone who has decided not to move and is executing that decision. Then she stood and moved around the table and stood for a moment in front of my chair, and the lamp was behind her now and the amber light was around her and she was close. Not the professional 18 inches, not any standard I had maintained. And I looked up at her face. She crouched. The movement was deliberate and specific. She brought herself to the level of my chair, to the level of my face. No, lower, to the level of my midriff, where the dark silk dress was present and the 20 weeks were visible and real in the amber lamplight, and her hands came to my knees, still. Warm through the dark silk fabric, the warmth arriving at both knees simultaneously, with the specific quality of warmth that is deliberate and located. I looked at her face. She was looking at me, at my face, at the neckline where I had loosened the dress slightly and the edge of the nude, rose bralette was visible, at my hands in my lap, at the visible 20 weeks in the dark silk. At me, all of it. The complete version, unmodified. From the gala behind the wall, the muffled ambient of a professional event, string music, too far away to name, the specific continuous sound of a room full of people whose professional lives were organized around the client decision due in 10 days, none of whom were in this amber-lit private room with these 2 chairs and this lamp and these hands warm at my knees. She was looking at me. Her hands had not moved. "Tell me what you want," she said. Her voice at this level, low, close, the specific quality of precision used at diminished volume, produced something in my chest that was not a professional response and that I did not file incorrectly. My hands in my lap were still. My breathing was careful and controlled. She was looking at my face, not prompting, not decorating the question, waiting with the specific quality of a person who has asked the real question and is prepared to receive the real answer. The gala moved behind the wall. I looked at her. The edge of the nude, rose bralette was visible at my neckline, and the 20 weeks were visible in the dark silk, and the blazer was folded on the chair's arm, and her hands were warm at my knees through the silk fabric, and the lamp made everything in the room warm and specific and close. "Say it," she said. The second sentence. The specific quality of command she used when she had asked the real question and the real answer had not yet been offered, and she was not going to add anything to the space to make it easier. I looked at her face. The quality of her stillness, the hands not moving, the face not performing patience, simply present and waiting, was the specific quality of someone who has been precise for 4 months and is crouching in front of a chair in a private room at a professional gala at 10:14 in the evening and asking the real question, and will not be leaving until it receives a real answer. "I wore the set tonight because I was arriving as myself," I said. "The complete version. No modifications." "I know," she said. "That's not what I'm asking." I looked at her. Her hands were warm at my knees. "I know it isn't," I said. She waited. The lamp was warm. The gala was muffled. Her hands were on my knees, warm and deliberate and still, and the warmth had been traveling for 4 months from conference rooms and professional meetings and the precise distance of professional opposition, and I was looking at her face, the composed, precise, formally calibrated face of the woman who had been my professional opposite number since September. And something in that face was very carefully not moving. It was costing her something to hold still. I could see it. Not in a large way, not in any way she had intended me to see. In the specific quality of the stillness itself, which was no longer the natural stillness of a composed person, and had become the particular stillness of someone who has made a decision and is holding it very carefully while they wait. "You have been counting months," I said. "Yes," she said, without hesitation, a fact delivered as a fact. "Since the preliminary meeting." "Since before," she said, and the precision of it, the specific honesty of the correction, landed in my chest with the weight of something I had not anticipated. I breathed. "Then you know what I want," I said. She looked at me for a moment. The hands at my knees had been still for the duration of this room, this lamp, this conversation, and now, not moving, not yet, but the quality of the stillness changed. I felt the warmth of them differently, still through the silk fabric, still at both knees. But the warmth had a quality now that was not the warmth of hands held professionally still. "Say it anyway," she said. Quiet. The window in my chest that I had been maintaining at the professional standard had been contracting incrementally since 9:47, and I had been noting its contraction and not examining it, and it was now at a width that no longer accommodated the distance I had been maintaining. And I looked at Sonara Voss's face in the amber lamplight, crouched before me at the level of my chair, her hands warm at my knees through dark silk, her jet black hair loose against the dark of her turtleneck, and I said it. "I want you to stay in this room," I said. "Past the gala, past the 10 days, I want you to see what you have already been seeing since September and not look away from it." She was very still. "All of it," I said, "the complete version, She looked at me for a long moment, and the lamp was warm, and the gala was behind the wall, and her hands had not moved, and then she stood, the deliberate, precise movement, everything decided before it is executed. And I stood, and the room reconfigured around us in the specific way that rooms reconfigure when 2 people stop being seated and become something else. She looked at my face. Her hands came off my knees, and she was standing close, the lamp behind us now. and the room was small. "Come here," she said. Not a request. I moved. Not toward the chairs, not toward the table. She was between me and the far wall, and I moved toward her, and we moved, both of us. The specific geometry of a room with 2 chairs and a lamp and a closed door that has the Gala behind it, and my back found the wall, not pushed, arrived, the specific moment of a wall behind you when you have moved to where you intended to move. And she was in front of me. The dark tailored jacket was on the chair behind her. The dark lace bodysuit was visible at the open front of the dark suit, composed, assembled, everything exactly in its place, and her jet black hair was loose against the dark of her shoulders, and the amber lamplight was behind her, and on her, and the room was the 2 of us, and the wall and the lamp and the muffled Gala, and the distance between us was no longer a distance. Her hands came to my arms, not roughly, the grip of someone who has been precise for 4 months and has made one decision in another direction. Her palms at my upper arms, fingers curved around the dark silk of my dress, warm through the fabric and specific and present. And she was looking at my face with the particular quality of attention she had been calibrating for 4 months and had, at some point in the last 47 minutes, stopped calibrating. "Tell me you knew I was going to do this," she said, low, very low. I looked at her. Her hands at my arms were warm, the grip not tight, the grip of someone holding something they have decided to hold. "I didn't know," I said. "I didn't let myself know." Something in her face, a thing that was not a visible event until it happened and then was entirely unmistakable. The composed, precisely calibrated surface of Sanara Voss, the woman who ended discussions, whose professional composure was a professional fact in this city, moved. Not dramatically. The specific, involuntary way a face moves when someone has been holding something very carefully for 4 months and has made the decision to stop. Her exhale went wrong. I heard it, the specific moment when a breath that was being held at the correct level and velocity was not, suddenly, being held at the correct level and velocity. Audible, not performed, the kind of sound that arrives without announcement. And then she said my name. Noor, the kind that lands. Not the professional precise version she had been using for 4 months across conference tables and joint sessions. Not the correct, inflectionless greeting of professional colleagues. This version, in this room, with her hands at my arms and her exhale gone wrong and the amber lamp behind us, was the kind of my name that named something. It landed at the back of my sternum and stayed there. My body had been in possession of information about this moment since 9:15. Since before 9:15, since the preliminary meeting in September, since the first time I had stood across a conference table from Sanara Voss and felt the specific quality of her attention land on me, and noted it and filed it meticulously in the wrong place for months. And the information arrived now in its entirety, all at once, with the specific weight of 4 months of misfiling corrected. Her hands tightened at my arms, not roughly. The grip of someone who has been precise for 4 months and has made one decision in another direction and is now holding that decision with both hands. The scent of her, cedar and cold linen and that colder edge underneath, present now at the distance of no distance, arrived with the specific quality of something that had always been there, and that I was now, with the wall at my back and her hands at my arms and her name for me still present in the room, allowed to receive. I could see the amber lamplight on the dark silk of my dress, on the specific curve of 20 weeks. She was looking at it, directly, without the careful, professional avoidance of the last 4 months. Without the meticulous not looking that I had registered and not acknowledged. And the quality of that looking was not clinical, and not polite, and not professional, and was the specific quality of someone seeing the complete version and not looking away from it. I was being seen, fully. The whole version, unmodified. The 20 weeks visible in the dark silk, the edge of the nude rose bralette at the neckline, the dark blazer and the chair's arm, all the architecture of a woman who had arrived as herself tonight and had not looked away from that decision and was not looking away from it now. It was a specific sensation, not what I had anticipated in the various moments over the last 4 months when I had briefly and inadvertently permitted myself to imagine what this would feel like, not the specific exposedness I had been bracing for. The sensation was of being received, of having arrived, the complete version, and been received as such, with full and undivided attention, without modification. Her hands moved. Still at my arms, but moving now, the specific, warm, deliberate movement of someone who has been precise for 4 months and has made a choice and is executing it. Her right hand traveled from my arm to my side, below the blazer's line, below the hip, where the dark silk was warm and the pregnancy was most present, and her palm arrived at my side through the silk and stayed, warm, still, not moving, the warmth specific and located and real. I felt my hands find her. Finally, the dark turtleneck's fabric, warm at her sides, the specific quality of touching someone you have been at professional distance from for 4 months. And the lamp was behind us, and the gala was muffled behind the door, and the room was the specific amber warmth of everything that had been building since the preliminary meeting in September. "I've been counting months," she said very quietly, not an accusation. A fact she had been in possession of for 4 months and was now, with her palm warm at my side and the room contracted to its smallest and most essential geometry, offering. "4 months," I said. "Before that," she said. I looked at her. Her palm was at my side. Her other hand was at my arm, warm and specific. Her face was close enough that the cedar and cold linen of her scent was a full and present thing, not a note at the edge of awareness. "How long?" I said. She looked at me for a moment with the quality of someone who has been asked the real question and is calibrating whether to answer it with the same precision she brings to everything else. "Long enough," she said. That the Harrington account was not the reason I took the meeting. Something in my chest expanded and did not have a name. I looked at her. Her hands were at my side and my arm, and the lamp was warm, and the gala was muffled, and the room was amber and close and specific. "The client decision is in 10 days, I said. "I know," she said. And then, with the specific quality of someone who has decided something and is stating the decision cleanly, "I don't care." I looked at her face. The composed, precise, formally calibrated face of Sanara Voss had, in the amber lamplight of this private room at 10:14 on a Thursday evening in January, arrived at an expression I had not seen from her in 4 months of professional dealings, which was the expression of a woman who has stopped managing what her face does. "Nor," she said, "the kind that lands, again." My hands at her sides tightened. She moved. The moment before it happened was the longest in the room. Her hands at my arm and my side, the wall at my back, the lamp's amber warmth, the cedar and cold linen scent of her at the distance of no distance, the muffled gala marking the specific outside of everything we had put between ourselves and the professional context, her face close and the expression on it unmistakable and chosen. The moment lasted the full length of everything it contained. Then she was close. Then there was no calculation of distance. Then the warmth of her was not at a specific location, on my side or my arm, but was the general warmth of her, close and deliberate and chosen, and her hand at my side stayed where it was, warm, still, specific, exactly where the 20 weeks were most present. And she did not look away from me, and I did not look away from her. The lamp was warm. The gala was behind the door. What was in the room was the two of us and everything that had been building since September, and I had arrived as myself tonight, the complete version, unmodified, and I was being received as such with both hands by the woman who had been in professional opposition for 4 months and had stopped. I had spent 4 months filing information in the wrong category. My body had been in possession of the correct category the entire time. The body is not subtle, and it is not patient, and it had been waiting since the preliminary meeting in September for this specific configuration. Wall, lamp, amber warmth, cedar and cold linen, hands, and it received it now with the specific quality of recognition. She was choosing this. Every moment of it was a choice, visible on her face in the way that Sanara Voss's choices were always visible, not in emotional performance, but in the specific quality of presence. Fully decided, fully present, fully here. She held my face in both her hands. The warmth of her palms at my jaw and cheek arrived with the full weight of everything that had preceded it. The glass taken from my hand, the hand under the blazer, the warmth at my knees, the palms at my arms, the hand at my side. And the motif returned at its full accumulated weight. Warm, deliberate, specific, anatomically located. The warmth of someone who has been counting months and has now, in the amber light of a private room, offered that fact with both hands. "You knew," she said very quietly. Not a question, not an accusation. Yes, I said. Then, she looked at me. Her thumbs were at my jaw. Her hands were warm. Stay, I looked at her. Past the gala, I said. Past the 10 days, she said. And her exhale was warm against my mouth, and the lamp was amber, and the gala moved behind the door, and her hands held my face with the specific warmth of someone who has stopped being careful with the thing they have been careful about for 4 months. And I looked at her, and her hands were warm, and the room was warm, and I said yes. Afterward, in the amber light, with the gala's sound still muffled and continuous behind the door, Sonara, with the dark tailored jacket on the chair's arm, the dark lace bodysuit visible at the open front of the suit, her jet black hair slightly loosened from its earlier precision. Me in the dark silk dress, the pregnancy present and unhidden, the edge of the nude rose bralette visible at the neckline, the blazer across the other chair's arm. She was sitting beside me, and her hand was at my side, where the pregnancy was most present, and she kept it there, not moving, the warmth of it specific and located and real. The gala behind the door had not stopped. The professional world was still present, muffled and continuous. The Harrington account, the meeting on Tuesday, the client decision due in 10 days, all the structure of the last 4 months still intact and still organized and still, presumably, relevant. We sat in the amber light and did not discuss it. At some point, she said, the preliminary meeting, September. Yes, I said. You knew then, she said. I filed it incorrectly, I said, something at the corner of her mouth. So did I, she said, and the corner of the mouth became, briefly, the specific small thing that was not quite a smile, and was not quite anything else, but that I had now seen enough times to have recognized it for what it was. I looked at her hand at my side, warm, still. The complete version, she said. Yes, I said. Her hand moved, not away. A small adjustment, the palm settling more fully at my side. Fingers spread slightly, the warmth deliberate and specific. Good, she said. The lamp was warm. The gala moved behind the door. Her hand was at my side, and the room was amber and specific and close. In the morning, I would find her business card in my blazer pocket. I had not seen her put it there. On the back, in her handwriting, precise and specific, the client can wait. I held it for a moment in the kitchen light. 20 weeks and a dark silk dress hung over the chair, and the cedar and cold linen scent of her still present at the collar of my blazer, where she had held my face in both her hands and asked me to stay. I put the card on the counter. I put the kettle on. The client decision was in 9 days. Whether it still constituted a competition was a question I did not yet have the answer to. I recognized that I was not currently examining that question with the urgency it had commanded at 9:15 last night, and I noted this as a data point and did not correct it. The kettle was warm. Her hand had been at my side, warm, still, specific, the warmth of both hands holding my face in the amber light of a private room, and I was the complete version of myself, unmodified, received as such. And the morning had the specific quality of a morning that has been revised from the outside by an evening it did not anticipate. I picked up the card. I turned it over. The client can wait, in her handwriting. I put it in my pocket. The kettle came to heat.